A dramatic collapse in the effort to repeal and replace. From healthcare to Russia and wiretaps, Washington is quaking. A war of words breaks out between the mayor and the city's bankruptcy attorneys. And do we really need to keep falling back and springing forward? Today is Sunday, March 26, 2017, and this is Flashpoint.
Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. Fun day ahead in the city today with the annual Marche de Nain Rouge ready to chase the Red Devil out of Detroit. If you want to march along, it gets started at 1 o'clock this afternoon at the intersection of Cass and Canfield in Midtown. It's always a pretty good time. That's this afternoon. This morning, we're at the intersection of Policy and Theater. It's about a mile and a half between the White House and Capitol Hill. And this week, it seemed like the busiest mile and a half in the country. It was shuttle diplomacy via Pennsylvania Avenue on health care, which exposed a fissure not between Republicans and Democrats, but within the GOP. And that family fight was enough to bring an ignominious defeat to a central plank of the Trump plan. Now, that would have been plenty if that was the only drama of the week, but there was, again, the matter of Russia and who was saying what to whom while someone else somewhere was listening in. The mile-and-a-half trip that got the most attention, in fact, was that of Devin Nunes, the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, who shared intelligence with the press and the president before sharing it with the Intelligence Committee. That came against more back and forth over Russia and intercepted conversations, targeted and otherwise. Ahead today, reflections on a rowdy week in D.C. Also this morning, we're going to dig into an increasingly bitter fight between the mayor of Detroit and the law firm that guided the city's bankruptcy. The latest missive from the Jones Day firm referred to Mayor Duggan as a political hack. Where is all this going? We'll talk about that too. Also, a lot of leadership changes in some key Detroit positions to discuss. And a few weeks ago, we moved our clocks back to daylight saving time. Is it time for all that to stop? It's all this morning on Flashpoint. Yes, another extremely dramatic week in Washington, but a lot to discuss in Detroit, too. So let's get to all of it. With me this morning, syndicated cartoonist and Detroit News columnist Henry Payne is here. Chastity Pratt-Dawsey is back with us, reporter from Bridge Magazine. Attorney Reggie Turner back as well. In fact, you just got back from Washington, which is an interesting place to be these days, as is the editorial chief of the Detroit News, Nolan Finley. Let's start with Washington before we move to Detroit. Nolan, what did we learn about Washington or about the president or about the future of health care after the week that was?
I think the key takeaway today is that the Republican Party is a majority in name only. I mean, this is really not a unified, we see that. It's not a unified party. It is not one party. It's a reason since 2010 they haven't really been able to get much done in terms of shaping their agenda. I mean, they should have been sending Obama bill after bill after bill expressing the conservative agenda, and they haven't been able to agree because they're fighting ideological wars. And I think as long as that continues, the Democrats can just sit back and wait to 2018.
Which is why, Reggie, it was interesting that the spin sort of on Friday from the president was he kept saying not one Democrat voting for this. It may have displaced where the problem was. It really seems to have been a Republican issue.
Well, they put the Democrats in a very difficult position because they decided that they were going to repeal the Affordable Care Act as it was a disaster, according to them. It's not a disaster. There are many good parts of it that are making people happy and that are covering 20 million Americans who will lose coverage under the Republican plan. So you have factions within the Republican Party that are at all ends of this argument. You have moderates like our Governor Rick Snyder who think that the Medicaid expansion was a good idea and it's covering people and it's helping keep people alive and safe. And you've got people on the far end of it who want to see draconian changes that would throw, again, tens of millions of people off of health care. So if the Republicans can't be united on this, then clearly the Affordable Care Act has some good points.
Well, Chastity, in fact, this is interesting. It reminded me of when Obamacare first came out, a lot of the polls showed that people were against Obamacare, except they were for all of the provisions in it, which is about branding, I guess. And I think that that's what a lot of the lawmakers found out when they tried to have, many of them went back and tried to have their town hall meetings and found some surprising support for the elements of it, if not Obamacare as a whole.
Absolutely. Bridge Magazine, we did a story that showed, look, Look at the state of Michigan.
Yep.
Look at the people who voted for Trump, and look at the people who are benefiting from Obamacare. Look at the people who will suffer if there's Trump care, and those were Trump voters. And so what you have is, here in Michigan, you have 650,000 people who now get Medicaid because of Obamacare, and they voted for Trump, and little do a lot of them know, repealing Obamacare will repeal their Medicaid. So people who vote for Trump are not going to necessarily benefit from Trump care. And, you know, that's a big deal.
Henry, you look skeptical of that take.
Look, I mean, the Democratic Party, I'm sorry, you folks are still on another planet. I mean, the reason that Donald Trump and the Republicans control the Senate and the House is because of Obamacare. Right. Democrats have seen the biggest loss of legislative seats across this country since 2010 in a generation because of Obamacare. So this was, and that's the reason this was #1 on the Republican agenda coming in, and it's also the reason why this was a huge defeat. Because you're in the first 100 days of a new president who's got both houses, who has all the momentum coming in. Democrats don't matter. They do not matter in this debate, and the Republicans cannot get this thing passed. And this is one of the biggest legislative defeats. I've been in and out of Washington for 30 years. One of the biggest legislative defeats I've seen.
I strongly disagree with this cause and effect relationship that you just espoused. The fact is that the Affordable Care Act was not the issue in the 2016 election. It's not what gave Republicans a majority in the Congress.
It was in 10, it was in 12, it was in 14. It was spawned the Tea Party. And you could talk about these town hall meetings. I think it's a little disingenuous to think this was grassroots America. These were Democratic.
No.
Polling shows
But what it did point out, Nolan, though,
support
is like the budget, to Chastity's point, a lot of the people who are going to be hurt by the health care changes and by the current budget that we're looking at are the people who put Donald Trump in office.
And they're also the people who are going to be thrown off insurance later this year, early next, when Obamacare collapses, because that's where it's headed. Insurers all over the country are pulling out of the exchanges. You have counties in this country now where you can't buy insurance on the exchange because no insurer will take you.
But the
Blue Cross
benefit,
lost $69 million on that program last year.
The biggest benefits are the people who are now getting Medicaid. If you're going to save all this money, this federal money under Trump care, you're going to say, okay, give me back that Medicaid. And people don't really get that.
But it's unsustainable as is. I mean, that's what we're missing here. This isn't, we can keep everything we have or we can change it. We're going to lose what we have.
Chastity, that's what the president said. He said, well, now we're just going to let it fall of its own weight, and maybe that's the best thing that could happen to kind of illuminate the problem.
The tail end of Trump care is going to have some problems as well. I mean, the whole thing about this big Trump care debacle is, look, this was supposed to be his big political win. It was all politics, and the people in his own party said, let's put this political win to the back burner and talk about people and their lives. And there were Republicans who said, I cannot let all of these Medicaid people in my state just get no more care.
That's not, this was defeated by the Freedom Caucus, the conservative wing, who think you can go back to the pre-Obamacare market, and that market no longer exists.
Doesn't exist.
So you can't do it.
It's important to clean this up. Look, I was in an emergency room a year ago. 13 million of the 20 people covered by the expansion of Obamacare are Medicaid. That's not insurance. There are no doctors. They all go to the insurance. They still go to emergency rooms.
ERs, yes.
So that's a red herring that this has covered people. But to Nolan's point, the governors don't have a vote in this. I mean, this was the freedom. You know, the Freedom from Reality caucus that thinks you can get pure ideology through.
Well,
This is legislation.
This is legislation. You had 7 years to get something together, and I think your characterization failure on that is. Quickly, before we have to get to a break, though, Reggie, where are we going? Where's this Russia thing all headed?
Well, this could be the biggest threat for this administration. It's very clear that a number of people in the Trump campaign and in the Trump camp generally were having repeated conversations with the Russians. And I think that once this is fully investigated, we're going to learn why the Russians were so interested in talking to Trump and his people throughout the election campaign. And I think that it's the same reason that they've been meddling in politics in Europe, where they have been fomenting the same right-wing organizations, these same nationalistic organizations in Europe. And I think they want to destabilize Western democracy.
Nolan, if it turns out to be true that there was concerted, coordinated effort between the Trump campaign and a foreign government to influence an American election,
then somebody ought to go to jail. I mean, the people who are involved should go to jail. I want to know two things here, and I want to know two things aside from politics. You know, I want to know, was there collusion, and if so, by whom, and was there tit for tat? I think we need to know that. I also want to know how in the world these Trump operatives ended up being surveyed by the Obama administration's intelligence apparatus, and that information started leaking out. That is just unconscionable. And if we could,
well,
if
you
it's
understand
true,
how somebody would be picked up in
I
the
don't
conversation.
understand how that is spread to
But
all
how
the intelligence.
leak, yes,
and how
Devin,
unmanned.
if that's true,
It's very simple.
if that's true,
No, it's
then
very
some people
simple.
should
We
go to
have
jail.
Russian operatives in this country under surveillance all the time,
time,
just
but
as
Reg,
our
as
Americans
You're a lawyer.
are
You
surveilled in
understand
Russia.
civil liberties. You unmask people that have not been targeted under surveillance. You unmask those folks, which has happened here. That's what's happened here. That is what.
Nobody should be surprised that they're talking to
Russian
Russians.
civil liberties problem.
If they're talking, nobody should be surprised if they're talking to Russian agents. That those Russian agents are being monitored by U.S. intelligence. That's happening all day, every day.
It's the leaks and whether they were intended to influence the campaign.
I got to get to a
That's
break.
as bad as the Russians.
I got to get to a quick break. We'll continue with more. We'll bring it back to Detroit right after this on Flashpoint on Local 4. All right, welcome back to Flashpoint. Let's talk about some interesting things going on right now back here in the city of Detroit. Reggie, help me a little bit with this fight that has broken out between Mayor Duggan and Jones Day, the city's bankruptcy law firm. Originally, the mayor said that he felt that the city had not been served properly by Jones Day's calculation on pension obligations. We've got a big one coming due. Oddly enough, the city's plan to cover that is help them with Moody's, who's impressed by the plan of how it's going to be done. But we end up with this fight now going on between Kevin Orr's law firm and the mayor, with this letter that comes out this week from Jones Day calling the mayor a political hack, and it's getting ugly.
Well, that was unfortunate. I have great respect for both Mike Duggan and Kevin Orr. I think that they are both really bright and committed people. There was clearly a misunderstanding between the two of them. But I think that I think that fair. But I think that it's pretty clear that the manager relied on 3 actuarial reports that set forth the facts about the pension system. Those were submitted to the court. The court approved those reports, accepted them as part of the resolution of the bankruptcy.
With apparently older life expectancy statistics.
To suggest that something dishonest was done, I don't see that. But I also don't think Mike Duggan is a political hack. I think Mike could be out there making a lot of money in his previous career in healthcare. I think Mike Duggan is an honorable, committed public servant.
But I think that, I mean, the larger picture here. I don't know why Duggan's picking this fight. I mean, the larger picture here is this city was saved in an extraordinary bankruptcy. I mean, this was a historic bankruptcy by a Republican governor bringing in an Obama ally.
But that doesn't make malpractice impossible.
But this was all overseen by courts.
Yes,
you know, I mean, Duggan's picking this fight with a law firm.
It's about money. If he could get more money
but he's in charge now. He's in charge now. This city has to run itself. That's the whole point. I mean, these outsiders came in, they got the city off the hook. This is Duggan's job now. I mean, to pick fights with outsiders, he's got to do his job.
You have pensioners who are still very angry at how this all settled out, and then you got the mayor putting $50 million aside to deal with what he says is a problem. And so if he can squeeze more money out of Jones Day, you got regular folks in Detroit saying, go get that money.
No matter how much it is. Nolan, you're getting a chuckle out of this fight,
I think they've got about as much chance of getting money out of Jones Day as they do out of Lansing nowadays. I think it's, you know, I don't understand. I'm with Henry. I don't understand this fight. After the letter from Jones Day was sent, the mayor's office seemed a little more muted. I think they got his attention.
Quite interesting. All right, let's talk about some changes. We've got a number of things, Chastity, all at once. We've got changes in leadership coming at the RTA. The DEGC, Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, the Land Bank, and now we've got our list of the candidates for superintendent, and Alicia Merriweather is not one of them, which My inbox may have looked like yours. A lot of people furious that she wouldn't at least be considered as a finalist. But this is a lot of change in some important positions.
Oh, a lot of change. And when you're looking at the RTA and the DEGC, you're looking at 2 African-American men who are not going to be in really big places. So the optics there are going to get some attention from regular folks in the city. With the land bank, you know, well, they have so many problems going on with the demolitions and everything. So people might not be so surprised to see the person at the top, see their head roll. Detroit Public Schools, you used to have a long list. Now there's only 2. And you're right. There are people who are teachers in particular who wanted to see Alicia Merriweather at least get a really good look, and she didn't even make the top 10.
And business people too. I mean, she cut across a lot of constituencies.
Yeah. She had a lot of fans. Reggie, how am I overstating though the important? I mean, these are important organizations to the function of the city, but when you look at it, the RTA didn't pass. We're not exactly certain where we're headed with that on the next step. I mean, am I overstating it, or are these?
I think that the RTA ran a poor campaign. I think it's a great idea. Campaign wasn't run well. If we could get Tri-County voters to support a millage for the DIA, to help save that entity and keep it going, I think that they'd be willing to support millage on transit.
But they didn't.
if the campaign is run right. And frankly, you know, I think we now find that perhaps a certain person who was involved in that campaign was traveling all over the U.S. When he should have been meeting with the county commissioners like we did at the DIA.
Ended up paying
when we were running that
many
campaign,
thousands of dollars in these expenses.
But when we were running the campaign for the millage for the DIA, we were meeting with county commissioners in all 3 counties. We got the support of Brooks Patterson. We were in Brooks's office. We were in Mark Hackle's office. We were doing what we needed to do to ensure that people fully understood what was needed and why it was needed. I don't think that happened with the RTA.
But with the RTA, Michael Ford, his travel expenses did not exceed the budget that the board gave him, which leads to the question of, was it really his expenses that got him fired, or did they just want to go in a different direction?
Well, he failed in his job. I mean, he had a job to do, and he failed. And as far as the RTA is, the proposal they put together was a very good 20th century proposal. I think they should go back and design a 21st century transportation system that takes in the ride-sharing services, the mobility advances that are coming right around the corner, and let people see how this thing's going to evolve to meet their needs in the future.
It's a different world coming very quickly.
They didn't make voters see how it was going to be useful.
Henry, you get the last word.
I mean, I think, Nolan, there's a key point. You know, out of a loss, there may be a victory here. I think this town, with the autonomous cars coming, has a huge opportunity to see a whole different transportation model take shape, and with the local governments out of the way, that's a market that I think is primed to grow.
We're going to leave it there, but when we come back, is the falling back and springing forward another archaic idea that needs to go? We'll talk about that. Representative Pete Lucido up next on Flashpoint on Local 4. Welcome back. We pushed the clocks ahead by an hour 2 weeks ago. Do we even think anymore about why we do that? Daylight saving time is an idea that dates back to World War I. Does it make any sense to be springing forward and falling back 100 years later? State Representative Pete Lucido of Shelby Township hates it and is sponsoring a bill in Lansing to end it. Representative Lucido, thanks for coming this morning.
You're welcome.
I'm very curious. Let me start with why you want to get rid of it. It's an inconvenience to a lot of people, but a lot of people kind of like the feeling of, hey, I got an extra hour of sleep or whatever.
You may think you have an extra hour, but really, do you? We give it and we take it away.
That's right.
Because of the fact that we've had this since World War I, and like you said, it's 100 years old now. It's the anniversary, 100 years old. What is the purpose? What's the rationale? Is it reasonable? Is it something that's common sense? And the answer is no. For almost 9 months, we stay on daylight savings times, as we did. We moved the clock forward in March. Now, in November, we're going to move that time back. And we keep moving these times, but really, who are we helping? Let's talk about all the risk factors, the heart attacks and strokes.
There are real health impacts. We report on this every year, that Monday after we change the clocks, you're more likely to have a problem. And
we also have work-related injuries. They've documented these. The workers' compensation that has gone out is astronomical. Car accidents, the Department of State has looked at 9% more car accidents on the Monday And really, whose agenda are we satisfying? If it's a health risk, if it's a health hazard, it's taking away opportunity in the businesses, why are we doing it? Let's stop it, lock the clock, and set it and forget it.
For argument's sake, let's say I buy all of that, and I think that moving the clock is a terrible idea. How do I do this on a state level if it makes any sense? People joke all the time that Indiana's a mess because they don't. There's a part of the state that doesn't change their clocks. Arizona doesn't change their clocks, and when you're out there, you never know what time it is because it doesn't match up the way the rest of the country is moving. Don't we have to move with the rest of the country rather than go at our own?
You know what? 10 million people live in Michigan. 9 million are staying on one time, all the time, every time. And the reason why they're staying there is because they live here. They don't venture out. But there's about 1 million people, and those are normally snowbirds, that leave in November. They're not interested in the winter rush. They're over there in the warmer climates like Arizona, Florida, Hawaii. And what are they doing over there? They're on their own time anyways, not our time. As a result, and look at you, you're feeling the love. And as a result, one thing we can do is stay here in Michigan, be on our own time, and not have to put up with this.
Your plan would not really do away with daylight saving time. It would put us on it all the time.
All the time.
But you would also then basically put us on the same time, we would no longer be in the Eastern time zone. We would be on Atlantic, I believe it's Atlantic time, which is the same time that Nova Scotia is on. So we would actually be, if it's 10 o'clock in, say, New York, it would be 11 o'clock here. Right. We would be later. How is that functional?
Let me tell you what happens. The Department of Transportation, and I know that's odd, in Washington handles the time zones, not the time, the zones. Because they put us in Eastern Standard Time, we should have the whole state on that, the way it works. But guess what?
Yeah, that's true.
The Upper Peninsula, the 4 counties up there, closest to Wisconsin, are opted out of daylight saving time, and they chose to be on Wisconsin time in a different time zone. You know what that means for us? We have one state, 2 different time zones, and we could opt out of daylight saving time, go to Eastern Standard Time. Our problem would be the golfers, the recreationalists, the fishermen, the boaters, all the runners are saying, we like that extra hour after work. It's for 9 months. Let's just leave it. Let's just do away with it and keep it on one time.
Which is how you end up at Atlantic time instead of Eastern time, which is, it gets a little complicated. But why wouldn't your efforts be better spread making this a national case to say let's do away with this rather than a state case?
And I'm glad you said that because 21 other states currently, including Michigan, are on this path. And the reason why is they're changing their clocks and they're wondering why they're doing it. I've talked to legislators, including the one in Wisconsin. She told me straight up, the people have spoken. They want one time, every time, all the time.
Fascinating. You've brought this before, but this time you actually got a hearing on it.
I did.
So, Representative Lucido, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And thank you for being here as well. Meet the Press coming up next, right after Mitch Albom's Heart of Detroit. And we'll see you down at Moulin Rouge in Midtown coming up at 1 o'clock. Have a great week. See you next time on Flashpoint.